Lovebirds of Reddit, how did you get over the one that got away? Did you ever see them again? Was tough. Took time. Eventually, I came to terms with the fact that the love you feel for each person is completely different. If you're thinking you'll never feel this way about a girl, you're right. You never ever will again. But the same goes for the next girl, and the one after that, as well. So it's okay to be sad, but don't worry. Love is a strange feeling and it really differs from person to person. Edit, holy shit, this blew up. For anyone who's feeling down about a breakup or ending of a relationship, I wanted to share something else. The one that got away actually cheated on me. I was dead inside for close to 4 months. I truly loved her and tried to give her the world. I threw myself into another relationship to take my mind off her. A month later, horrible idea. I still remember my mind-altering epiphany. I was driving to dinner with the girl I was seeing at the time while holding hands, and the song Riptide by Vance Joy was blasting. The windows were down, and my hair was flying all over the place while I zoomed down the freeway. All of a sudden, I heard the line, "This cowboy's running from himself and she's been living on the highest shelf," and it felt like time froze. That was the moment I came to terms with the fact that I was running away from the fact that I'd always love her. I will. To get over her, you need to accept, more than that, you need to be proud of fact that they are the one that got away. Who gives a shit if they left you, cheated on you, lied to you? There are 8 billion people, about 4 billion men and women, on this planet. You'll never feel the same way you felt about her, but there are 4 billion possible people you can go fall in love with and feel a completely different form of love about. That's the beauty of love, endless possibilities. Don't be sad it's over, be happy it happened. Hope this helps and I'm not just rambling. Avoid them like the plague was the advice I got for a speedy recovery. It's worked for me. And it depends on the person whether status quo can and should be maintained with an ex. I'm not really sure I ever did. She was a great girl, but I was an idiot. She never moved away, but got married and had 3 kids. I saw her constantly at the grocery store, restaurants. I even worked with her husband. She got a really aggressive form of cancer a few years back and passed away. I've reconnected with a few ones that got away, and in most cases they're different people now, just as I am. The funny thing is you still pine for the memory of the old them because they're really a totem for the amazing daydream of youth and the infinite paths your life could have taken. The only reason your current spouse isn't the one that got away is because their probability curve has collapsed in tandem with yours. I still wonder about ones that got away, not because I have regrets, I certainly don't. I'm just infinitely curious what would have happened if I loaded a save point 20 years ago and did everything differently. It's a fascinating daydream to have. She came back years later. I was so excited and hopeful. Alas, we had the same issues. Was never quite sure if she liked me as much as I liked her. Her interests seemed to waver. Didn't work out, unfortunately. We keep in touch occasionally, so I've been somewhat privy to her life direction. In 10+ year hindsight, I can say her would have either ruined or severely hindered both our lives, but I'm glad to see that she took a solid bounce off rock bottom and seems to be doing well for herself. Sometimes you just gotta let them be the one that got away. Probably the exception. I reached out to her 15 years later, and in some ways it was like no time had passed. We had both done a ton of work in the meantime, so we were better people and could communicate. But whatever was between us was 100% still there, just as strong. In the interim, we both tried to find other people, but no one quite was the same. We were happy enough, but we were always each other's one who got away until we weren't. And now I'm perpetually giddy. There's been a handful of ones that got away. It's just a part of life and you move on. Over time, it turned into a different kind of love. She's my best friend now, and I was honored to give a toast at her wedding recently. Some soulmates aren't meant to be romantic. Slimmed down, beefed up, went to therapy and got her back. She is truly the love of my life, and I wasn't going to let my own faults get in the way of that. In all honesty, no. I still think about her every single day. Every time I see her name, in an advertisement or on a coffee mug in some store, or hear a song with her name in it. I just wonder how she is, and how her life turned out, and how she's doing now. After we broke up, I never saw her again. I still miss what we had. Broke in while she was sleeping, put all her silverware in the toilet, shaved her pets, normal breakup shit. Still not over it. I lost my lover, my best friend, my soulmate, my yin to my yang, my spirit dragon. Best 12 years of my life. She passed away. Not over it. Wasn't supposed to be like this. I love and miss her so much. I tried getting back out there. Starting over FKN sucks trying to date women. You don't know what to say to the date. I tried getting a hooker for friend purposes. FKD that up. Lamau. I don't know what to do and it's fucking depressing and I hate waking up alone. I cry for 10-15 every morning when I wake up looking for my wife, then reality sets in. I miss you, babe. Didn't get over it. Saw her in Target last month and I quite literally sprinted out the store. Not over her, but I know to avoid danger when I see it. You never get over the one that got away. Your memory of them will always be there, in your head, like a stone in your shoe that you can't get out. Even if you are able to not consciously think of them, they'll show up in your dreams. Catching up with them later is just twisting the knife, either because they are better off without you, or because they're no longer the person in your memory. I thank my lucky stars every day that we rekindled our romance 12 years post-breakup. He had a failed first marriage and I had a baby while we were apart, but here we are now, just celebrated our 10-year anniversary. We also had a kid together, so we are a family of 4. I love him and knew it was always him. I feel sad for people who want to be with somebody they are not with. She was murdered for a petty reason from a petty person. I did not see her again, and I definitely did not get over her. 15 years until he becomes eligible for parole. I'll be waiting. Feel like screaming at the top of my lungs every now and then when she pops into my brain. Sometimes I actually do. It's been 20 years, I've never seen her again. Sometimes special people come into our lives, stay for a bit and then they have to go. But the bit where they were here was happy, wasn't it? It's a newer quote, but quite truthful. No one gets away, you don't own anyone, but sometimes the path you are walking, that person can only travel so far with you before they have to go their own way. Then, someone new will join you later on your path, more meant to be the one to travel with who you are now. I felt absolute grief when I got broken up with in 2018. It was an unusual feeling, especially since he and I were only together for a few months and I had been in a 3-year-long relationship before that didn't hurt even a little bit as much as this did. It was the type of hurt that made all the love songs make sense, and the cliché things like every little thing would remind me of him. Even when I thought I was over it, I'd have dreams about him which would throw off my whole next day. When I found out he got a new girlfriend a few months later, it was as if someone had kicked me in the stomach. I really thought I'd never recover. Interestingly, this past December I ran into him at an airport where we both had layovers. It was the first time I had seen him in 5+ years, and I remember at one point I had dreamed about everything I would say to him if I ever saw him again. We caught up for a bit and I realized while talking to him that I felt bored. I made up an excuse to get back to a phone call and we parted ways. It's true what they say that time heals all wounds, it just may take more time for others. Sometimes we linger on the one who got away because it was the best we had been treated so far. Sometimes, someone else comes along and makes you completely realize that the bar can go higher. Sometimes you grow and realize the bar was at the right height, but this just isn't the bar for you. Sometimes, you take another crack at the bar and finally have the strength to pull yourself to its level. I have 2 schools of thought on this. 1. The one that got away is most likely just fond memories. It didn't work for a reason, you just choose to remember the good times. I have exes that at a simple glance I remember fondly. Then when I dig in deeper I remember the loud screaming, throwing shit, using me, talking shit about me to my friends, etc. Not always, but more often than not. 2. Most of them got away. At a certain point, you realize that you gave up. Whether that's because you didn't put in enough effort, or if any more effort would have approached stalking, or anywhere in between. You stopped trying, and decided to let them go. It's not a bad thing, it's the natural course these things take. Very few of us are lucky enough to experience a mutual break with only good memories. Personally, not healthily, went through alcoholism, depression and isolation that happened to clash with the beginning and severe portions of the COVID lockdowns. Took me way longer than it should have to get back on my feet. I'm better now, still think about her occasionally, but not in a longing type manner. I don't have much of a desire to date these days, still. I've never gotten over the one person I found. He left because he was insecure about the relationship between me and my friend. Both are gone now, you don't just get over that shit. I take solace in the fact that the person I was then, and the person she was then no longer exist. And the person I've become now and the person she has become now would not exist if I hadn't been who I was then and she hadn't been who she was then. I'm happily married now, and she is too. She recently had a baby, and they seem happy. I probably wouldn't be married right now if she hadn't broke my heart. I was in a very bad place then, and she was the catalyst that sparked a decade of figuring out who I was, coming to terms with my own mental health, and learning how to be a person that is capable of loving and being loved in a healthy way. A tiny part of me will always look back fondly upon the time I spent with her, and a tiny part of me will always wonder what if, but the reality is that I most likely would have thrown my life away and been a failure had she not broken my heart. I'm fairly certain she hates me, or at least hates the person I was 10 years ago. Or maybe I'm being egocentric and she doesn't even think of me. But either way, if by some 1,000,000 to 1 chance she happened to read this, thank you. You probably saved my life. I'm over it now and I'm getting married to someone else this year. It hurt for a while though and it messed up my mental health. I have made a good life for myself since though and I'm happy now. I didn't. There are people living rent-free in my mind for as long as I can remember, and I guess it's part of me.